everyone, Ms.R here. It's another week and another episode of Raiders Thrive, and I'm here with my buddies, and we're your support team, Mr. Assiamah and Crystal. So before we jump into the question, we're just going to go and do a check-in. How are you guys doing? How was the last week?
Last week has been good. Today's a very foggy day, but I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yep, it was a good week for me as well. I felt very busy, and I felt like there was just a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff to catch up on. And as usual, it pretty much makes my week go by really quick. So it's nice.
Just a little plug. Some of the things, or one thing that Crystal and I have been doing is if you're in the school and you go to the bathroom, you're going to notice a sheet of paper on the wall called a student wellness check-in. It's got a QR code and you can scan it. It'll take you to a form. So if you do need us to reach out to you, that's the way to do it. Just let us know how you're doing and it will come to us and we will follow up with you. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to do that plug in case people were wondering. Okay, so the question we're gonna, discuss at our round table today. I like to pretend we're at a round table. We're all drinking coffee. How can you have the motivation to get through school if you don't enjoy it? So today we're going to talk about motivation.
So
who wants to jump in?
I think that motivation, it's hard to find sometimes. Like, we're living in a world right now where nothing is normal. And so we have to adapt to these new normals. And it's all like uncharted territory. We've never done this before. We're all figuring things out as we go. We're flying by the seat of our pants. And that could sometimes become so exhausting because every day from one day to the next, it's different. So I think that I also struggle with motivation. Like, I struggle with motivation more now than I ever have. Because before I would have my caseload of students, I would meet with students, I would call them, I would have way more work in a day than I could ever accomplish. So there was always something that I needed to do. And now it's like I have to find the motivation and the things that that can keep me connected with students and the school and the staff. And that's really challenging because, this whole virtual world, this whole, the new way of doing things is new to me. So I'm trying to learn as I go. So I can totally appreciate not having the motivation. But I feel like what constantly brings me back is like the longer term goal. So I'm doing these things now because I know later on I'm going to set myself up so things are going to be easy. So I have to constantly keep in my mind that there's a bigger objective. There's more things coming later. And what I do now and how I keep myself occupied now is going to set me up later. So although it's hard to find that motivation right now and it's like digging in my heels, I know that later in the long run, it's going to work for me. Like, it's going to be beneficial for me.
So for motivation, motivation from a clinical lens, motivation is the byproduct of confidence. There's something called a motivation loop, which is confidence, competence, and then action. So if you want to have more confidence in doing something, like to have the confidence, you need to have the competence. But to have when you have the competence, that also affects the action. So it's a loop where it's one of those things where you do more of the things that you're good at. Vice versa, the things that you're good at, you learn it. So pretty much when we talk about motivation, it's one of the things where you literally just have to start. You have to start, even if it's a little step, even if it's a little task, start. Sometimes you have to give yourself some rewards. As Miss Crystal has stated, set some goals. Have your goals, and you just have to start, because it's one of those things where once you start doing that thing and you get better at it, you're going to want to do more of it.
So, and it gets easier too, right?
And it gets easier. Mm-hmm. So because of the competence, you see, once you get more competent in something, it's not as easy to start it. So motivation is one of those things where it takes that first step. And that's why it always says, the first step is always the most important to kind of get going. You have to plot your progress sometimes also, just to see where you've coming from, right? Because sometimes you don't know how far you've come if you don't know where you came from. So It doesn't matter what you're working on, even a book that you're reading. Look, and you know what? I'm at chapter 3 now. I set a few pages a day that I'm going to work on, and now I'm here. A big thing about motivation too, remember, we just spoke about that's a competence part of it, because we do more of the things that we like to do or we're good at doing. So if you're struggling with your work, and that's the reason why it's hard to do it, because there's that competence loop where you have to get over that start of something that's frustrating you, ask for help. You have a lot of supports, not just ourselves here, but you have your academic support, teachers, and sometimes some people even have tutors in the community. Use all of us, because how that happens then is that competence gap where you're trying to get over. It's easier to then climb, and then once you start feeling good about doing it, and you learn how to do it, it becomes easier to kind of get into that loop. And then it's always about rewarding yourself. For me, it's just even just allow myself to just chill at the end of the day and watch TV, distress. Those are always things that I look forward to, right? Because I really just kind of put myself in a place where I'm going to work on this and I'm going to try. And then distractions have a big thing to do with motivation too. If you're trying to start doing something that is difficult for you to do, and you've plotted distractions around you, like you have your cell phone on the table, the same table that you have your math book that you're struggling with, 9 out of 10 times, when the motivation is going to stops coming, you're going to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And every time you pick up the phone, it breaks that loop, that flow in your mind, right? So every time you pick up the phone, it says the stimulation of the phone kind of even lasts in your mind sometimes for up to 4 hours. So that's why when you're trying to focus on something, you're so stimulated. Like if you put an image in somebody's head, sometimes that's social media. We're going through images. That image is set on and it's stuck in your brain. And this is why multitasking is so bad, because when you switch from this task to another task, you are still kind of set on the other task,
right?
The previous task. So you have to put yourself in the best possible conditions to get this task that you're doing done. Limit the distractions. Know that if you're doing other things and trying to do it at the same time, it's not going to work, especially if it's a hard task. So know the level of task you're doing, limit the distractions, and ask for help if you need it.
Here's, as you were talking, things are going on in my brain. And I'm thinking back to when I was in high school. And I did well in math up till grade 12, like high 80s. I don't think I ever broke 90 as my average, but I was high 80s. Then I hit OAC calculus. It was a whole new ball game. And it was a different language. My marks then went down to the low 60s, high 50s, which was a big shock for me because, I wasn't that student who got those marks. And my problem was I didn't ask for help because I just thought, I internalized this to think, okay, I must be stupid. I was doing well in math up until grade 12. Now I hit OEC calculus. What's wrong with me? There's a deficiency in me. So if I want to echo what Mr. A said, if you're struggling, ask for help because there's nothing wrong with you. It's just maybe we need extra help. We all need extra help. I'm not perfect at everything. Mr. A is not perfect at everything. Crystal's not perfect at everything. Mr. Pruison's not perfect at everything. No one is perfect at everything. And so it's a fallacy to think that we have to be perfect. So let's remove that. The other thing I want to mention is, and it just sort of ties in with the video I did yesterday for my weekly dose, I shared a quote by James Clear, and it talks about motivation. And I don't know if I did this on purpose to pick this question, but anyway, the quote goes, and he says, people don't lack motivation, they lack clarity. So let me say that again. People don't lack motivation, they lack clarity. So to hit upon what Crystal and Mr. A are saying, especially in these times, we're losing clarity because before in the pre-pandemic times, we knew what our day would look like. We had clarity. We knew what to expect of school. When we got up in the morning, we knew how the day would look, that we'd come in, whether you came in on time or came late. And if you came late, you knew you'd go to attendance and you may have to deal with VPs, but you knew your teachers, you knew the routine. Now it's all gone. We don't really have clarity, and it's taking us time to figure out what our clarity is going to be. So that's why I want to echo what Crystal said. Think of your goals long term. You're still in high school. You still need grades. You still need to graduate. So still set those goals for you. Now the day-to-day is different, but focus on the clarity. You know, like instead of it being so all fuzzy and foggy like our climate today, try to cut through the fog and say, okay, yes, things are weird and there's a lot of distractions, but what is my goal? Life circumstances don't change our goals. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes they do, but right now your goal is to get through school, do the work. If you need extra help, there's extra help, academic support from 12:25 to 1 o'clock something. So access that support. If you need someone to talk to, the three of us are here. You know, if you are in cohort A or cohort B and you're coming to the school, go to the bathroom. If you see that student wellness check-in, go to the form. Let us know how we can help you. Because maybe, you know, sometimes we just need that extra support in times like this.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, that have we exhausted the topic?
No, that's amazing. I love the content.
I like what Mr. AU said about the confidence, competence, and action. But here's my question now for you, because this is something else that also came to mind. So I'm hearing you talk about do what you like, it builds competence. But what if in this quadmester or the next quadmester, I am stuck with 2 courses I can't stand? How can I do something I like when it's not an option that
You know, the
quadmester?
the big thing about, being in school and at this stage of our life, right? Part of the things and the courses you have to take, it's not every course one that you take in high school that is going to be your strength, right? Some of them you just have to do it and have that understanding for yourself that this is something that you need to do. You might not want to do it, but you need to get over it to get your grade. And once again, putting your set goal ahead of you. So you know that along the way, it's not everything that you're going to do that you're going to love. But that is the whole point of even exploring, because sometimes finding the things you don't like, right, tells you more than when you're doing things constantly that you like. Sometimes you're not even learning, because the challenge is where the growth comes from. The challenge is where the exploration that teaches us, like, okay, you know what, maybe this is not my strength. So when you are facing that experience of I don't like this, right, sometimes it's because you're hitting your upper limits. Whenever you go outside of your comfort zone, so your zone of excellence or your zone of genius, and you start hitting your upper limits, the fear or the I don't like it, sometimes it's not even because you don't like it, it's because you're being challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not just with school, it's just with everything.
So I may not like the subject, but I don't like being challenged more than I don't like the subject.
Exactly. Whenever you start getting that feeling, it's because the level has raised. So what is called from a clinical lens is the upper limit. So whenever people hit that block, that upper limit block, you could find a person that has done so well. It's you see this a lot even in sports with athletes. They get to the finals race, and then all of a sudden, boom, the pressure of the race. This guy has been running this time consistently, but he gets to the final race and he flakes. It's never about the performance or about you. Rather, you're hitting your upper limit, so you start to feel small because you have to jump over that. It's almost like the fishbowl. I've even seen the fishbowl picture where you're forced to jump into the bigger pond. Mm-hmm. Whenever that happens, it comes with fear, and fear then makes you start feeling like you're not good at anything that you're doing. So it's never about you're not good enough. Rather, it's you sometimes not wanting to. Once again, you're hitting your upper limits, which a lot of times comes with self-doubt, comes with lack of confidence, comes with, I can't, that heavy feeling. It's because you're being challenged. But the moment you get into it, you have to get through that as a person, because this is what happens the first day of work, happens the day before your wedding. This is what happens the day before everything. You get that feeling of not good enough.
And a lot of that is temporary, right? Like you have those feelings, but that's not going to be a feeling that's going to be forever. You're going to challenge those feelings, like you said, challenge those thoughts, and then this too shall pass. You're gonna do it. You're gonna finish it, and then it's done, and then you're on to the next thing.
And that's like what builds the confidence and the competence.
That's what builds it, because now every time you see an obstacle, rather than viewing it as something I can't do, if you get comfortable with just trying things, even just for completion, sometimes it's not for excellence, it's for completion. Yeah. You start then teaching yourself You start rerouting your brain. Like, when I see something, the unknown shouldn't make me feel less.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the unknown that we're afraid of. And that's how it is for humans. You know, we are automatically set to want to be safe, to want to protect the ego, to want to always feel in control. So things that kind of take that from us, right, or challenge us, then makes us almost forget all our skills.
Yeah.
Everything that we know, we almost
Yeah.
like, I can't do it. Oh my God. But you always can. It's just
I
get it
remember
over
the
yourself.
first time I signed up to do a 5K race. I had a lot of friends who were like, come on, Crystal, let's do it. Let's do it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And then they were like, they were motivating me, but they were trying to figure out what was going to catch me. And so they were like, you're going to get a nice medal. And that medal, the thought of that medal stuck in my head. And I was like, I'm going to have a medal. Like, I want a medal. And as much as I really disliked running, I was focused on that medal and obtaining that. So I went and I ran and I trained and I did what I needed to do. And you know what? I got that medal. I got that medal. And the feeling of getting that medal was so rewarding for me that I went back again and I did another one and another one and another one. Then I did a mud run. Then I brought my kid. And then, you know what I mean? And now I have all these medals and it was something that I accomplished. But it was very daunting just thinking like, oh, like I got to go run again today. I got to go do this. I got to go do that. And I found what that motivation was. And it did get easier and it then became a little bit fun for me. But I did it and that was it, you know.
You
It
see,
was hard.
one of the most important things you said is when there's challenge, there's also so many things you could do to accomplish. You practice.
I did.
You access your friends, experience from your friends. You had time to prep. You see, sometimes when we say no to things or we shut down ourselves from doing things, we don't even explore all the other things we can do to close the gap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know, so this for you students listening, how you close the gap academically, especially when you're being put in a situation, is access your supports.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's no cheating when you ask for support. That is actually the cheat code. You ask for support.
Yeah.
That is the hack to learning. The hack to learning in life is knowing when to access supports, knowing when you, out of your own brain, because sometimes the support just comes with experience. It's like working on a math question. You're doing it the wrong way, and somebody teaches you how to do it the right way. So where you were stuck, it's not because you don't know how to do it. You're just not using the right method, so you're taking too long, so you can't finish your test. But when you work through somebody else who has experience, and this is why you guys have teachers, you have different leaders in the school, or even sometimes your friend, you get the shortcuts. And, and that's the best lesson I learned in university. University is one of the most collaborative environments that I was ever in. So when you get to university, you realize that I was a science student to start. And all the labs, when you try to do the lab by yourself, they'll be set up on a computer. If you even have 1 point off in the question is wrong. But when you work with other people, you start to see how they did it. If you miss one little step, it's done. You know, so you learn how to collaborate, and that's what the world is. You know, you don't always know things, so use everybody around you and try to close that gap.
Yeah, and so I think essentially what we're all saying is it's not so much the final product, but the process there. Or that, you know, that cliche line that I know we've all heard. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Cliches have truth in them. You know, that's, I think, what makes them cliche. But it's not about, because I know for grade 12s every year, or for a lot of students, it's all about marks, 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 marks. The marks don't tell anyone what kind of student you are. They just say, that's the level you can achieve. Last year, for the Friday videos with the students, we had Madame Cook on the show one time, and she was talking about being a lifelong learner. Always have this attitude that you're never going to reach or exhaust your field. There's always something more to learn. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that attitude, then you're motivated because you realize you're a work in progress and you're just learning. And that can motivate you.
No, I think that's amazing. We covered it well, please. So
I think we did. This was actually a really good topic. All right, so hopefully now you feel extra motivated and extra, charged to keep going with school, because I know there's only a few weeks left in this first quadmester. So good luck with your motivation. Good luck with whether it's school or other. And we'll see you next week. So
And
have a good week.
motivation comes from doing.
There we go. Mr. A's got the motivation comes from doing. So you just keep plugging away. Have a
That's
good
it.
week, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.